Tomorrow, the military communique will read, "One American was wounded in an engagement with an unknown-size enemy force. Enemy casualties are unknown." But you've seen how it really was. Heroism, danger, fear, all rolled into one. Words don't describe it. Richard Threlkeld, CBS News, near the Cambodian border.
Following North and South Vietnam's partition, North Vietnam desired to reunify the two countries under a communist regime. As the U.S. entered the Vietnam War around the 1950s, because of the fear of communism spreading, backlash from the American public sparked waves of protests to the chaotic bloodshed. This was because many Americans believed that this war was not theirs to fight, and that sacrificing lives to an unfamiliar environment was highly immoral. The war was the first in the U.S. to be broadcast in American living rooms. Along with the sit-ins and marches came a new and innovative counterculture to fight them, the hippie movement. In the mid-1960s, the hippie movement emerged as a new counterculture that reformed protest. Hippies led with a revolution of activism for peace and unity, causing the public to react with disdain. Despite this, hippies not only broke through traditional beliefs and contemporary controversies, but they also reformed how society expressed political beliefs by using new and creative tactics such as fashion and music. The first protests against the war in the 50s and 60s started off with demonstrations in cities and college campuses, but it wasn't enough to shift the opinions of political leaders.
The more support I can have from the American people, the sooner that pledge can be redeemed.
There was a clear disregard to the protests of the American people. Around this time, which was the era of protest, sparked by the public's fury and sympathy for the Vietnam War, is when hippie culture emerged. And it all started in San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury district in the mid-1960s. An influential leader, Jerry Rubin, answered the question of why they arrived in society.
America is so obsessed with bad breath and with underarm deodorant. Is not concerned about poverty, not concerned about race oppression. And so I think that a generation of kids which says, "We don't care about your concepts of cleanliness," is a revolutionary generation.
Moreover, a large part of what spoke for these values was through fabric. What made them so recognizable was their first step of protest: fashion. Hippies are widely known for their fashion. Their characterization and way of protest depended heavily on it. Their loose clothes emphasized peace and love through their prints and color. This was one of the most unique ways to show anti-war culture, because though it wasn't shared through words, it was a creative way to reject mainstream fashion and create a purposeful one. The value of the look wasn't the appearance, but the unspoken message, and hippie fashion was a form of expression that mirrored the essence of an age. On the other hand, though, because fashion was so important to expression, hippies were quickly judged based on how distinct they looked.
You know, a lot of people did not understand long hair at all. It was really a threat to them, really flew in the face of conventionalism.
Hippie fashion wasn't just impactful in America, but also in places such as Canada and Britain, furthering the future of fashion itself. In the 1960s, as hippie traditions started to spread further by the days, a large problem began to arise for them. Hippies' values and techniques greatly opposed the long-standing ideas of Americans, with the public raising questions about how they would even do this, because they wanted everything that the American standard didn't.
A simpler way of life, less urban, less consumption-oriented, much more concerned about spiritual values, about companionship, friendship, community.
Because they were so unconventional, tensions between them and the rest of society only grew. Eventually, this growing tension between the hippies and the public culminated at the 1968 Democratic National Convention. 10,000 protesters gathered at the convention because a likely nominee named Hubert Humphrey supported the ongoing pro-war policies. Wearing their iconic clothes, hippies rioted and sang peace anthems to protest the Vietnam War. The response from thousands of law enforcement officers was swift and brutal. They brutally beat and arrested hippies, attempting to extinguish their creative flame. On August 29, 1968, the demonstration ended, but the activism didn't. This was a brief test of strength for the hippies and a pure demonstration of their creative flame and determination. Strength was a powerful influence to change, but could they make an impact with their completely unorthodox methods of protest? Finally, the largest hippie event a year later arose as a peaceful reaction to the violence, and with music raging in the 60s, this festival would be a creative and effective revolution through a united love of music. And a single gathering of a 3-day concert turned out to be the most famous, impactful, and popular music festival for hippies. This event was called the Woodstock Festival. It began that year from August 15th, ending on the 18th. 3 days of an entire generation's climax of protest, with 100,000 tickets sold. But during the concert, a total of around 400,000 people showed up instead. Music at the festival allowed people to indulge at the height of the revolution in unity. An artist such as the Jefferson Airplane called people up to sing their anti-war anthem with them. Another clear supporter of the counterculture through his lyrics was Jimi Hendrix, a very influential singer of the time. And Richie Havens himself, opening act of Woodstock, stated that Woodstock was a peaceful protest and a global celebration. While many effects of Woodstock were positive, a substantial part of it was portrayed by the general public as chaotic and disorderly. With so many people, it was a festival of unrest. This only justified the media's claims of the horrendous influence that hippies had on society. Globally, it was a spectacle that influenced youth culture and invited people to unify, to fight with a weapon that could be shared internationally: music. Every song made the tie of music and protest clearer, which popularized the idea of protest songs. Because the Woodstock Festival was so heavily publicized, messages of peace and love spread only further across America. Every song made the relationship between protest and music stronger, and with millions of Americans watching, it eventually furthered the impact everywhere.
Really can.
Let's hear about it.
And they go for this peace, 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 love, not hate. If it had been from my father, your father, his father, everybody's father, over there fighting for us, there wouldn't be any hippies here now. Am I not right?
To many, hippies were only adding upon the chaos that America had been trying to abolish. To most people of the older generation, they were seen as ungrateful because they chose a different way to prosper in society than what they were offered.
I had a strong feeling that these children were rebels without a cause. They had everything.
Additionally, for people who believed peace was found by sending soldiers and troops for the Vietnam War, they saw hippies as dishonorable in comparison. To people that abided by society's rules, mostly workers, they saw hippies as people trying to escape their responsibilities and totally unrealistic.
To me, and to anybody I think who was a blue-collar worker at the time, or working in industry at the time.
Different people saw hippies as ungrateful, unhelpful, but also many others saw them as people to mock.
The nonviolent demonstration brought stares, gasps, and chuckles.
In the end, in 1973, U.S. troops were finally pulled out of Vietnam.
That we today have concluded an agreement to end the war and bring peace with honor in Vietnam.
Yet, even though the Vietnam War came to an end, the revolution's legacies and impacts never did. The Vietnam War revolutions proved that to make an impact in the world, protesters had to be willing to have courage. Protests against the Vietnam War then turned into a counterculture that represented the revolution of social order and art as activism.
It gave people a sense of generational solidarity and a sense that they were different and a sense different from the rest of the country, and it gave them a sense of being embattled, of being considered outsiders, reprobates, bad people.
Hippies would have never made their impact on music, fashion, and the power of protest if it wasn't for their revolution of culture. While the reaction from the public and the media wasn't what the hippies desired, they still chose to grow. But the most impactful part was how they shared their values. From the harmony of Woodstock to the beauty of hippie fashion, hippies' bravery didn't save them from the pain of the public, but it taught them that it was worth withstanding. They did eventually die out, but their spirit and impact still rages on. Hippies represented the revolution of social order and art as activism. Fashion in modern days is weaved into symbols such as women's rights, resistance of oppression, and modern political issues. Music and festivals nowadays, such as the indie singing resistance that was held in Monument Circle, shine a light on voices and stories that still continue to battle injustice. Let generations after respond by taking a stand with their legacy and letting their flame of courage continue to flicker.